Welcome to the Sonia Buchanan Show, where we inspire one life, one smile at a time. Come on in, everyone. It is time for the Sonia Buchanan Show, where we focus on one life, one smile at a time. And we have a great show for you today. Today is Valentines, and we are going to name this podcast Love Authority. Yes, I did say that. Love Authority. Why? Because I have authority over my love life. Now, for the sake of this podcast, I just wanted to make this announcement that I know that many of you do not celebrate Valentine's because of how it was established. But nevertheless, there are billions of people who spend millions of dollars on Valentine candy and gifts and flowers for this special occasion. I call it the love holiday. Now, going forward, Love Authority. I want to take the time out and share a couple of stories with you, and maybe it will delight you. It is here to entertain you, and I'm going to just reveal some of my wacky stories of my love authority as we name this podcast. But first, I want to give a shout out to my father, who has pretty much my entire life, every single year, he buy his girls Valentine candy. I remember as early as 4 years old, I would come home from school, and when I get home from school, go into my bedroom, I would have a box of chocolates on my pillow. And I am in my 50s right now, and still to this day, my dad has chocolates waiting for his girls. And yes, I did check today, and he did buy me a box of chocolates. And that is something that he does every year. He buys my mom this huge box of chocolates, and he buys his girls the medium-sized box of chocolates. And the really interesting story about this, my brother has a daughter, and I remember his first Valentine's for her, and I asked him, "Did you buy her some Valentine candy or gifts?" And, you know, my brother has this thing about Valentine's. He doesn't celebrate Valentine's because of the way Valentine's was established. And I screamed at him. I literally screamed at him, "You better get to that store and buy her some candy, and you better not miss not one single year." And I explained to him, I said that our dad buys Valentine candy for us every year. And he had no idea. He said, "Really?" I said, "Yes." I said, "You better get to that store, and every year you better buy her something." You know, I had to make him do the tradition thing because he had no idea that our dad was buying the girls candy. But nevertheless, he's still doing it too. But I want to go into some stories and tell you about my love life, in which, no, I do not have a Valentine's. Of course, my dad is my Valentine's because every year he does buy a gift for me. But, to check some of you fathers out there, I hope you are doing that too. Just buying your girls something, a rose, a flower, a teddy bear, something. But nevertheless, I just want to share a couple of stories with you. I am not the typical person who really gets all into this mushy kind of stuff for relationships, you know. I just kind of been very secure in who I am. But it's really interesting. And I want to go all the way back to I was in the 8th grade. Here I am entering high school, and during my years in high school, our high school grades were 8th grade to 12th grade. And I remember being in high school for the first year, and I'm seeing all these beautiful guys, you know, in 11th to 12th grade. Never in my life witnessed such beautiful, fine boys or men. I don't know what you would call them. But I was in 8th grade, and at the time they would put the 8th grade and the 12th grade in the same gym class. And I remember being in the gym class, and I saw this guy in the 12th grade. He was so gorgeous. He was so cute. My first time having interest in a boy. And I wanted to get to know him. Now, I had no idea that because I liked someone in the 12th grade that it had anything other than I liked them. But it did. And so I liked him. And the 12th grader asked this really private question: would I go into being promiscuous? And I said no. Here I am. I have no clue about this. Here I am. I says no. I don't want to do that. So he kind of ruined my reputation. He informed everyone that I was gay. So I had to go through high school with people thinking that I was a lesbian, which, was a terrible situation, but it actually saved me. It really did. It kept me from experiencing things that I normally would have had to continually to say, no, I'm not interested in that. But he kind of helped me without having to tell anybody no, because people were thinking I was liking girls, which, as terrible as that is, it was actually the best thing that he could have ever done. And I just began to hang around with people who were like me, who wasn't interested in being promiscuous. But that was my first encounter of, you want to call, love authority. And of course, I had to go through the entire high school with people thinking I was a lesbian, which I did not try to change the reputation either, because like I stated, I was not interested in being promiscuous while I was in high school. I just was not interested in that. And that's not to say anything bad about anybody else, but me personally, I just felt I was in high school to do that. I was not interested in that. I just wanted to just enjoy my life and enjoy high school years without having to deal with craziness. And he kind of helped me to avoid it, which, as funny as it is, it did approach me again when I got into 10th grade, and someone approached me and they tried to embarrass me. And even then I could have made the correction, but I didn't. I just kind of laughed about it. And I said, well, since you already have this insinuation, I'm going to let you continue on with the insinuation that that's what I am, which I was not. And, some people use other things to try to escape. But hey, that was a privilege on my behalf. But that was one of the stories in my first encounters. And then I had another encounter, and I think I'm just going to share two stories with you all. I had another encounter, and I'm still in high school, and I think maybe 12th grade or whatever, and I met this guy at another school, and I may not, you know what? I was not in high school. I was actually out of school, and I was maybe 19 or 20, and there was a young guy who wanted to take me out. And I said yes. We supposed to have been going to the movies, and he's supposed to have been picking me up on a Saturday night about 7 p.m. so we can catch the 8:30 movie. And the guy supposed to have been picking me up at my parents' house because I was still living at home. And when 7:30 arrived, he was not there. So I called him to check and see, when will he be arriving? And he says he will be arriving in the next 10 minutes. He's waiting on his sister to come back from the store because she was using his car. And I waited, and here it was, 8 o'clock. He has not arrived. And I called him again. I said, well, the movie started at 8:30. We still have time to get to the movie and be there on time. When will he be arriving? He says she should be back in 5 minutes. I said, well, 30 minutes ago, you said she'll be back in 10 minutes. I said, but okay. So here it was 8:20, and he has not arrived, and the movie started at 8:30. And I said, okay, well, maybe we won't catch the 8:30 show. We can probably catch the 9 o'clock show. And here it was, 9 o'clock. He has not arrived. I called him again, and he said she hasn't gotten back from the store. And I said, okay, well, I'll wait. And he says, she should be here about 10 minutes. And I waited. And after that, I did not call him again to follow up when he will arrive. Because what? He never showed up. He never showed up to take me to the movies. He never called to follow up as to why he did not show up. He never called, never confirmed. Time just elapsed, and I never called him again. I never called him back. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this story, because here it is, maybe 5 years later, I'm still living at home with my parents. And my dad says to me, someone came over to, looking for you. And I wasn't home. I said, who was it? I said, what type of car did he have? And my dad, he described the car. Now, I knew back in the day, 5 years prior, what kind of car the person that's supposed to be taking him out on a movie date, I knew what kind of car he drove. But 5 years later, my dad is explaining to me the car that this guy was driving, and I could not remember who could be looking for me, who could be coming over looking for me. So the next week, my mom and I was getting into the car, getting ready to go shopping, and the person who came looking for me drives up the driveway. And it was the same guy 5 years prior that's supposed to have been driving up the driveway to take me to the movies. He gets out the car 5 years later. He knew where my parents live. He had my parents' phone number. He drives up 5 years later. He gets out the car, and I recognize he's still driving the same car. And I get out the car, the passenger side, and I turn around and I looked at him and I said, get back in the car. Don't ever come back over to this house ever again. Forget this address. Forget the telephone number and forget my name. And I get back into the passenger side. I looked at my dad. He looks at me with this strange look like, you are the meanest person in the world. Now, my parents have no idea why I yelled at this person to get out the yard. They have no clue. I never informed them about the date. I never informed them about the incident that was taking place 5 years later while they were outside witnessing all of this stuff. And I just get back in the car. I'm not emotional distraught. I'm ready to go shopping because 5 years prior to that, I completely forgot about the person. He was no longer in my memory. I deleted it. I trashed it and I moved on. And 5 years later, he drives back into the yard as if there's nothing wrong. Yeah, it was something wrong. It's called love authority. That was a completely disrespect. He disrespected me as a woman. He disrespected me as my time elapsed. He lied. And I feel like you knew exactly where my parents lived because obviously he knew the phone number. He did not have enough respect. He didn't honor his word. He didn't do anything except lie. It was unacceptable for him to even be in that yard. It was unacceptable for him to even look for me, to not even apologize. So I just kind of helped it on because I had forgot all about it and forgot about him and told him to dismiss himself out of this yard. Don't ever come back over here. And see ya. And my family, my mother and my father said not a word. I didn't say anything as to why I was dissing him. I just dismissed him because that's unacceptable. Very much unacceptable. And most people would probably been a little upset. They would have cried. They would have been depressed. I wasn't any of that. I don't know. I don't know. I just felt like the person 5 years prior to that, at that time, that night, I had got dressed. I had made myself ready, looking out the window, waiting on to be picked up. And I knew right then that was a turning moment. It was my first date. It wasn't my first date, maybe about second or third date. I knew at that moment, a turning point. I says, never again will I allow anyone to disrespect me in such a way that I would be ready. After that date, I never got dressed until I saw the person drive up the driveway. I put on nice clothes, did my hair, my makeup. I wasted all that stuff, all my time and all my money, and to go on a date that someone never showed up. I mean, you did a no-show. That is the most humiliating thing that a male could ever do to another woman. And thank God that my family did not know that I was going on a date that night, because I would have been more humiliated. And so when he drove up 5 years later, I just dismissed him out of that yard because he had no right to even be there. My family was all this time thinking maybe this chick is just mean and she just rude. They have no idea. They still do not know why I did that and why I excused him out of that yard. But do I have any remorse in telling him to leave in front of my parents? Nope, sure don't, because there comes a time where when you have come into an adult stage in your life, not to disrespect anyone, not a male disrespect a female, but just don't disrespect anyone. Honor your word. If you stated that you're going to do something, do it. And if you're not going to do it, call them to confirm as to you're not going to do it. And I felt like that he did not have any remorse and to share why he did not show up. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with his car because he was driving the same car 5 years later. And those are the two stories that I have had for Valentines. And my podcast is called Love Authority. and I just feel like that women have to have authority over their love life and value themselves much more than anybody could value you, and know what's disrespectful and what's not disrespectful, and know what's honorable and know what's not honorable. I feel like women and girls should be groomed to know what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And especially when you're not giving off to be rude and disrespectful to anyone, and to receive an exchange for you being a blessing or being a great person or great presence for someone, and they giving you this total disregard of the value of who you are. You have a right to have authority over your love life and to know where you stand and what is acceptable that you're receiving from others. But that is our story for today in our podcast. And I hope that you have been blessed and by my little two stories. I have many more stories that are very good, but I wanted to share those two negligent stories because the podcast is called Love Authority. And I wanted to express that because I don't want women to devalue themselves. We have, not to give women so much props, but women were created to be helpers. We are people in nature. Our DNA is created to be helpers. And that's just something that we are. We are created that way. And when the first encounter, when someone meet you and approach you and they don't understand them and their part of who they are, and they just, the first impressions, the first greeting, they completely disregard your value, that is truly a sign to say they don't understand what position they are in. When they come across you as disrespectful, it's time to put things in perspective and dismiss it, because no one should be disrespected in any kind of way, and especially a woman who is created to give of herself, to give nurture, to be a helper, to do all these things. And then what you're receiving in the first encounter is a disrespect. That is when you just disregard and kind of dismiss it, because not to say there's always an exception to the rule, but even when there is an exception to the rule, do an overview and find out, is it something that you can manage to repair? But I don't want you to look at you being a woman to repair things, but I want you to look at you being a woman as a value, something that brings value. And so I just wanted to leave you with that. And it is okay to feel like that you are a treasure, that you are a diamond, and know that you are. And don't lower your value just because you're looking for a relationship. There are people out there who will respect you and give you honor. But I want you to know that the law of attraction is the law of attraction. Raise the way that you think of yourself, and that's what you will receive. If you think yourself is value, you will receive a counterpart that you're valued. But wanted to leave you with that. And today is Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's to everyone out there, because Valentine's represents love. And it's not always about relationships with a man and a woman, but it is about relationships in general. So happy Valentine's Day to all of you. And I wish you well. And this is the end of our podcast. Our title today is Love Authority. I hope you enjoyed our podcast today. Remember, thank you for supporting. Thank you for listening. And remember, we will see you next week. This is the Sonia Buchanan Show, where we focus on one life, one smile at a time. Bye, you guys. Thank you for listening to our broadcast, the Sonia Buchanan Show, where we focus on one life, one smile at a time. Until next time, bye, you guys.